Story 1. The Mile That Repeats. The blood on my windshield spelled out "turn back" in letters 3 feet tall, and I'd been watching it appear and disappear for the past 42 minutes as I drove the same stretch of Highway 50 through Nevada over and over again. Fresh blood still dripping, forming the words slowly like invisible hands were painting them from the outside, except there was nothing outside my truck but empty desert and darkness. Each time the message completed itself, my odometer would reset to 247.3 miles, my clock would jump back to 11:47 p.m., and I'd be driving past the same distinctive rock formation shaped like a broken tooth for what felt like the 100th time. The blood would fade, the windshield would be clean, and 30 seconds later the writing would start again. Turnback. My name is Graham Hutchins, and I'd been hauling refrigerated pharmaceuticals across the western states for 16 years without believing in anything I couldn't explain with mechanical failure or weather conditions. But this defied every rational explanation. I'd tried turning around, tried stopping completely, tried speeding up to 90 miles per hour. Nothing worked. The highway kept looping, kept resetting, and the blood kept appearing with its warning I couldn't obey even if I wanted to, because there was nowhere to turn back to. I'd been heading east from Reno toward Salt Lake City with a time-sensitive load of insulin and antibiotics, temperature-controlled cargo that couldn't afford delays. The route was simple, direct, a drive I'd made dozens of times. But somewhere around mile marker 247, reality had started malfunctioning. The first sign had been subtle, a feeling of déjà vu, a sense that I'd just passed the same Joshua tree twice. Then I'd noticed my trip odometer wasn't advancing. Then the blood had started. Each loop took exactly 17 minutes and 32 seconds. I'd timed it. From the moment I passed the broken tooth rock formation to the moment I passed it again, 17 minutes 32 seconds elapsed. My speedometer worked normally within each loop, showing my speed varying between 65 and 75 miles per hour. But the distance traveled never added up. The math didn't work. I should have covered at least 18 miles in that time. But I was stuck in what felt like a 3-mile stretch of highway that somehow looped back on itself. The blood message appeared again. Turn back. This time I watched more carefully, trying to see what was creating it. The windshield was clean, then a single drop appeared in the upper left corner, crimson and thick. It ran down slowly, defying gravity's pull, moving horizontally to begin forming the T. More drops appeared, each one moving with purpose, with intelligence, spelling out the warning letter by letter. I grabbed my CB radio. "Breaker 19, this is Cold Chain. Does anybody copy? I'm stuck in some kind of loop on Highway 50 near mile marker 247. If anyone can hear me, I need assistance. Over." Static, just static. But underneath it, barely audible, I heard something that might have been words played backwards. I increased the volume. The backwards words became clearer. K-cab, nroute, K-cab, nroute, K-cab, nroute. Turn back, reversed, repeating endlessly. My trailer's temperature alarm started beeping. I checked the reefer unit display. The temperature had dropped from the required 38 degrees Fahrenheit to 12 degrees. The cargo was freezing. I adjusted the thermostat, but the temperature continued dropping. 8 degrees. 4 degrees. 0 degrees. The insulin was ruining, thousands of dollars in medication being destroyed. And then I saw her, a woman standing on the shoulder ahead, illuminated by my headlights. She wore a white dress that might have been a nightgown or a hospital gown, and she was holding something in her outstretched hands. As I approached, I saw what it was. A baby. She was offering me a baby. I'd been in the loop long enough to know that nothing here was normal, that nothing could be trusted. But she looked so desperate, so pleading, that I found myself slowing down. My foot moved toward the brake pedal without my conscious decision. The woman's face came into clearer view. She was crying, tears of blood running down her cheeks, and the baby in her arms wasn't moving, wasn't breathing, was gray and lifeless and had been dead for some time. I pressed the accelerator instead of the brake, pulling past her. In my mirror, I watched her turn to follow my truck's movement, and her neck rotated a full 180 degrees without her body moving. She screamed, a sound that shouldn't have been able to reach me through my closed windows over the engine noise, but it did. Piercing and shrill and full of rage. The blood on my windshield changed its message. Turn back became "you should have stopped," written in larger letters, more violent strokes, blood splattering across the glass like it had been thrown from inside a centrifuge. My odometer reset. 247.3 miles, my clock jumped back. 11:47 p.m. The Broken Tooth Rock Formation appeared ahead. Loop 17, or maybe Loop 53, I'd lost count. But this time, something was different. The woman with the dead baby was now standing in the middle of my lane. Not on the shoulder, in the lane. And she wasn't alone. Dozens of figures stood with her, all wearing white gowns, all holding dead babies, all staring at my approaching truck with eyes that reflected my headlights like animal eyes. I couldn't swerve around them. There were too many, blocking both lanes. I couldn't stop in time at 70 miles per hour. I was going to hit them. I braced for impact. My truck passed through them like they were made of smoke. No collision, no resistance, just the sensation of driving through cold spots, and in that moment of passing through, I felt their grief, all of them, every woman holding a dead child, their sorrow and rage and desperation flooding into me like ice water in my veins. They'd all died on this stretch of highway. All of them. Accidents, murders, suicides. Different causes, but the same location, the same 3 miles of Nevada desert that had claimed their lives and their children's lives. And they were trapped here, repeating their deaths, trying to warn others away. Turn back. Don't die here too. Don't join the loop. But I couldn't turn back. I could only continue forward through the endless repetition, and I was beginning to understand that I'd already died. That first subtle feeling of déjà vu hadn't been déjà vu at all. It had been the moment of death, the instant my truck had crashed or my heart had stopped or some other catastrophe had ended my life. And everything since then, all these loops, all these repetitions, was the afterlife. My personal hell. Driving the same 3 miles forever. The blood message changed again. This is mile 247. This is where we die. This is where you died. I checked my trailer camera, looking at the cargo. The pallets of pharmaceuticals were covered in frost now, completely frozen, ruined beyond recovery. But they were also shifting, moving, rearranging themselves. Gaps appeared between pallets, revealing something behind them. People. Dozens of people pressed into the cargo space, all wearing white gowns, all holding dead babies. They'd gotten into my trailer. The dead from the highway had boarded my truck during one of the loops, and now they were here, traveling with me, trapped in the same repetition. One of them, the first woman I'd seen, appeared in my passenger seat. She didn't climb in. She simply materialized, sitting beside me, still holding her dead baby, still crying bloody tears. "You can't leave," she said, her voice like wind through broken glass. "None of us can leave. This mile owns us. This is where our stories ended, so this is where we exist forever, loop after loop, death after death. Trying to warn the living to stay away, but they never listen. They never see the signs until it's too late." "When did I die?" I asked. "And how did it happen?" She pointed ahead. "Next loop, you'll see. You'll experience it, and then you'll reset and do it again. Forever." The Broken Tooth Rock Formation appeared. Loop reset, 247.3 miles, 11:47 p.m. But this time, as I drove forward, I felt something different. A pressure in my chest, pain radiating down my left arm, a heart attack. I was having a massive coronary and I couldn't stop it because it had already happened, was always happening, would always happen at this exact point in the loop. My truck drifted right as my hands spasmed on the wheel. I tried to correct, but the pain was overwhelming, whiting out my vision. The freight liner left the road, rolled 3 times, and came to rest on its side in the desert scrub. I felt every moment of it. The impact, the rolling, the crushing sensation as the cab crumpled. Felt myself dying, consciousness fading, everything going dark. And then I was driving again. 247.3 miles, 11:47 p.m. The Broken Tooth Rock Formation ahead, the blood starting to spell. Turned back on my windshield. The woman in my passenger seat smiled sadly. Now you understand. This is your death, Graham. Playing out over and over, you exist in the moment of dying, stretched out into eternity. This is what happens when you die on mile 247. The mile doesn't let you finish dying. It keeps you in the last moments, looping forever. I've lost track of how many times I've died now. Hundreds, thousands. Each time I remember the heart attack, the crash, the pain. Each time I reset and drive toward it again. The dead women with their dead babies are always here in my trailer, in my passenger seat, standing on the highway. Their company, at least. Other souls trapped in the same endless death. Sometimes the loop varies slightly. Sometimes the heart attack is worse. Sometimes the crash is more violent. Sometimes I survive the crash but die slowly in the wreckage. But it always ends the same way. Reset to 247.3 miles, 11:47 p.m., the blood spelling its futile warning. Turn back. But there's nowhere to turn back to. There's only the loop, the death, the reset. Mile 247 of Highway 50 through Nevada, where time stopped meaning anything and death became a permanent state. I am Graham Hutchins. I am dying. I have been dying for eternity. I will die forever. And if you're driving Highway 50 and you see blood-forming words on your windshield, if you feel that subtle sense of déjà vu around mile marker 247, listen to the warning. Turn back. Find another route. Don't become another ghost in the loop, another soul trapped in the mile that repeats. Because once you're here, once the loop claims you, you'll never leave. You'll just die and reset and die again forever while your cargo freezes and the dead watch with their hollow eyes and the blood writes messages no one can obey. Mile 247, this is where we die. This is where we'll always die. This is eternity for those who didn't turn back. Story 2, the passenger who multiplies. The hitchhiker climbed into my cab at the rest stop outside Amarillo, and when I checked my mirrors 3 miles later, there were 7 of him sitting in my sleeper berth, all wearing the same stained jacket and all staring at me with the same empty expression. I'd only picked up one. I'd watched one man approach my truck, one man ask for a ride to Oklahoma City, one man settle into the passenger seat with a grateful nod. But now there were 7. Multiplying like bacteria, filling my sleeper cab with identical copies that hadn't been there moments before. My name is Monica Reeves, and I'd been hauling dry goods across the Southern Corridor for 19 years, and I'd broken my own cardinal rule, never pick up hitchhikers. But he'd looked harmless, maybe 60 years old, thin and weathered with the kind of face that spoke of hard decades and harder luck. And it was 107 degrees in the Texas Panhandle. Leaving someone standing in that heat felt like murder. So I'd stopped, let him in, and doomed myself to whatever was happening now. The original hitchhiker, the one in the passenger seat, seemed unaware of his copies. He sat quietly looking out the window at the flat Texas landscape, not speaking, not moving much, just existing beside me. But the 7 in the sleeper berth were active. They were doing things. One was opening my storage cabinets, one was examining my logbook. One was touching the walls of the cab like he was testing their solidity. The others were just sitting, but their eyes never left me. tracking my every movement with mechanical precision. "Hey," I said to the passenger seat hitchhiker, trying to keep my voice steady. "Do you have brothers? Family traveling with you?" He turned slowly to look at me. His expression didn't change. Still empty, still neutral. "No family," he said. His voice had an odd quality, like it was being produced by something that had learned human speech but didn't quite understand the mechanics. "Just me. Then who are the people in my sleeper berth?" He glanced back, saw the 7 copies of himself, and showed no reaction. No surprise, no fear, no confusion. Just looked at them, then turned back to me. "I don't see anyone." But they were there, solid, real. One of them had found my thermos of coffee and was drinking from it. I watched the liquid disappear down his throat, watched him swallow, watched him set the thermos down exactly where it had been. I pulled over. This was insane. I needed to get these people, or copies of people, or whatever they were, out of my truck immediately. Set my air brakes with more force than necessary, threw open my door, and climbed down. "Everyone out," I called toward the sleeper berth. "I don't know what the fuck is happening, but you need to exit my vehicle right now." The 7 copies didn't move. The original hitchhiker in the passenger seat unbuckled his seatbelt and climbed down, standing beside me in the baking heat. "Something wrong?" he asked, still in that not-quite-right voice. "There are 7 more of you in my truck. They need to leave." He walked to the sleeper berth door, opened it, looked inside. The 7 copies stared back at him. He closed the door. "Your truck is empty," he said. "No one back there." I pushed past him, yanked the door open myself. The 7 copies were gone. The sleeper berth was empty, exactly as it should be. Just my unmade bed, my mini fridge, my personal belongings. "I saw them," I whispered. "There were 7 of you. I watched them move. One drank my coffee." The hitchhiker smiled for the first time. It was a terrible smile, too wide, revealing too many teeth. "Maybe the heat is getting to you. Maybe you need rest. I can drive for a while if you'd like." "No," I said quickly. "No, I'm fine. I'll keep driving." But I wasn't fine. Something was deeply wrong, and as I climbed back into my cab and continued east on I-40, I felt it intensifying. The hitchhiker sat in the passenger seat, still silent, still staring forward. And in my peripheral vision, in my mirrors, in the reflections on my windows, I could see them. The copies. More now. At least 15 packed into the sleeper berth, sitting on top of each other, occupying the same space, all watching me. I tried not to look directly at them, tried to focus on the road, but every few minutes I'd catch a glimpse, and the number had grown. 20 copies, 30, 50. They were multiplying exponentially, filling the sleeper berth beyond any physical capacity, and when I did look directly, they'd vanish, leaving only empty space. "What are you?" I asked the original hitchhiker. He didn't answer immediately. We drove for another 5 miles in silence. Then, "I'm what happens when someone dies alone on a highway and no one notices. I'm the ghost that trucks pick up and carry, spreading my presence across the road system. Every truck I ride in becomes a little bit haunted. Every driver who gives me a ride starts seeing me multiply. I'm loneliness made manifest. I'm the echo of every person who died unwitnessed. That's not possible. Ghosts aren't real." "Then what are you seeing in your sleeper berth?" I looked in my mirror. Hundreds of him now. Thousands. Packed impossibly tight, a mass of identical bodies filling every cubic inch of space, pressing against the walls, deforming the cab from inside. But the cab looked normal from the outside. No bulging, no damage. The mass existed in a space that shouldn't contain it. "Make them stop," I said. "Make them disappear." "I can't. They multiply on their own now. Every minute you drive with me, they double. Eventually, there will be so many that they'll overflow from the sleeper berth into the cab, into the driver's area, into you." And then you'll become one of them, one of the copies, and the original Monica Reeves will fade away, replaced by infinite versions of me wearing your face. I slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded to a stop on the shoulder, and I reached across the cab to unlock the passenger door, to physically push the hitchhiker out. But when my hand touched him, he felt wrong, not solid, more like touching a balloon filled with liquid. Yielding, unstable, like his skin was barely containing something that wanted to burst out. He opened the door himself and climbed down. "You can't get rid of me by making me leave," he said. "I'm already inside your truck, inside your perception. The copies will keep multiplying whether I'm physically present or not. In 3 hours, you'll be completely replaced. Monica Reeves will cease to exist, and thousands of versions of me will be driving this truck, all trying to pick up more hitchhikers, spreading to more trucks, more drivers. That's what I do. That's what loneliness does, it spreads." He walked away, disappearing into the heat shimmer of the Texas afternoon. I climbed back into my cab and drove, hands shaking on the wheel. The copies continued multiplying. I watched in my mirrors as they overflowed from the sleeper berth, squeezing through the curtain into the cab area. They were behind me now, packed so tightly I should have been able to feel their pressure, but when I reached back to touch them, I felt nothing. Just air. But I could see them. Hundreds of the hitchhiker, all wearing that same stained jacket, all with that same empty expression, all existing in a space that shouldn't contain them. And they were starting to look different. Some had my face now, my features replacing the hitchhikers slowly like a fade transition. I was watching myself being copied, my identity being overwritten by the presence I'd picked up. I tried calling 911, but my phone showed no signal. Tried the CB radio, but only static came through. Static that sounded like thousands of voices whispering in unison, all saying the same thing. "Give me a ride. I need to get to Oklahoma City, please. It's so hot out here." The mass of bodies was pressing forward now, surrounding my driver's seat, reaching for me with hundreds of identical hands. I could see through them. They were translucent, ghost-like, but they were becoming more solid with each passing minute. Soon they'd be real enough to touch me, to merge with me, to replace me. I did the only thing I could think of. I opened my door while moving at 65 miles per hour and threw myself out of the truck. The impact with the pavement should have killed me, should have shattered bones, torn flesh, ended everything. But I hit the ground and felt nothing. Stood up unharmed. Watched my truck continue down the highway without me, driverless but driving perfectly, maintaining speed and lane position. And I realized I was already gone, had been replaced sometime in the last hour. The Monica Reeves that jumped from the truck was just another copy, another manifestation of the multiplying hitchhiker. The original me had faded away while I was watching the copies multiply, and I hadn't even noticed the moment of replacement. I am Monica Reeves. Or I was. Or I'm a copy that thinks it's Monica Reeves. I can't tell anymore. I'm standing on the shoulder of I-40 in the Texas Panhandle, and I'm watching trucks pass, and I'm feeling the urge to stick out my thumb, to hitch a ride, to climb into someone's cab and start the process over again. Because that's what I do now. That's what the hitchhiker does. Multiplies, spreads, replaces. Each driver who picks me up becomes another vector for spread, another host for the copying phenomenon. I've hitched 17 rides since that day. 17 trucks now carry multiplying copies in their sleeper berths. 17 drivers are watching themselves being replaced, experiencing the same horror I experienced, unable to stop the process. And I can't stop. The compulsion to hitch rides is overwhelming, hardwired into whatever I've become. I stand on the shoulder in 107-degree heat, looking weathered and desperate, and when trucks pull over, I climb in with a grateful nod and begin multiplying. If you see a hitchhiker on I-40 through Texas, if they're wearing a stained jacket and have an empty expression, drive past. Don't stop. Don't offer a ride. Don't doom yourself to multiplication and replacement. Because the passenger who multiplies can't be escaped once you let them in. They're already in your mirrors, in your sleeper berth, in your peripheral vision. And soon they'll be in your skin, wearing your face, driving your truck, spreading to the next driver. Loneliness is contagious, and I'm patient zero, multiplying forever. Replacing driver after driver, filling the highways with copies that can't die and can't stop spreading. Monica Reeves died on I-40. What's left is just echoes, infinite echoes, all of them hitching rides, all of them multiplying. Forever. Story 3, the way station that measures souls. The scale at the Oklahoma way station showed my truck at 127,000 pounds when my maximum loaded weight should have been 78,000. And when the inspector told me I needed to pull forward for a secondary inspection to determine where the extra 49,000 pounds was located, I felt cold certainty settle in my chest. The weight wasn't cargo. The weight was something else entirely. Something that had been accumulating in my truck without my knowledge, adding mass that had no physical form, growing heavier with each mile I drove until the burden became measurable on a scale designed for steel and rubber, but somehow capable of detecting a different kind of mass. My name is James Kozlowski, and I'd been hauling auto parts from Detroit to Dallas for 11 years with a spotless inspection record. Never overweight, never in violation, never giving authorities a reason to look twice at my Peterbilt 389. But when I'd rolled onto the way station scale at mile marker 103 on I-35, the numbers that appeared on the digital display made no sense. 127,000 pounds. Impossible. I'd loaded 43,000 pounds of alternators and transmission components in Detroit, verified by certified scales, documented on a manifest I could produce immediately. The inspector was a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and an expression that suggested she'd seen everything the trucking industry could throw at her. But when she looked at my weight readout, her face changed, went pale, tightened around the eyes. "Pull forward to Bay 3, she said, her voice carefully neutral. "Turn off your engine and wait inside the inspection facility." I complied, pulling my Peterbilt into the designated bay, setting the air brakes, killing the engine. Through my windshield, I watched 3 more inspectors emerge from the facility, all wearing the same tense expression. They circled my truck, examining it from every angle, not with the casual efficiency of a routine inspection, but with the careful attention of people approaching something dangerous. One inspector climbed onto my catwalk and opened the trailer doors. I watched him in my mirror as he shone a flashlight inside, sweeping the beam across the cargo. His body language changed. He backed away quickly, nearly falling off the catwalk, and called to the others. They had a hurried conversation I couldn't hear. Lots of hand gestures and head shaking. The first inspector came to my door and gestured for me to follow her inside. I climbed down and walked across the facility's parking lot, feeling like a criminal being escorted to interrogation despite having broken no laws I was aware of. Inside, the inspection facility was brutally air-conditioned, a relief after the Oklahoma summer heat. The inspector led me to a small office and closed the door. "Mr. Kozlowski," she began, consulting a clipboard, "how long have you been driving this particular truck?" 3 years. I own it outright. Bought it used in 2021. "And before you owned it, do you know its history?" "Just what the dealer told me. Previous owner died, estate sold it. I got a good price because of that. People are superstitious about trucks where the driver died." The inspector nodded slowly. "The previous owner was Charles Brennan. He drove for 42 years before dying of a heart attack in this truck while parked at a rest stop in Arkansas. When the authorities found him, he'd been dead for approximately 72 hours. His body had been sitting in that cab, decomposing, while other trucks came and went around him. No one noticed. No one checked. He died alone and stayed alone. I didn't know the details, I said. But what does that have to do with my weight issue? Mr. Kozlowski, this weigh station is equipped with experimental sensors. In addition to measuring physical weight, they measure what we call psychic mass, emotional burden, guilt, regret, fear. These things have weight, metaphysically speaking, and under certain conditions that weight becomes measurable. Your truck is carrying 49,000 pounds of psychic mass. The residual trauma from Charles Brennan's death, compressed and contained within the vehicle, growing heavier over time as it absorbs more emotional energy from you and from the roads you travel. I stared at her. You're telling me I'm being weighed for ghosts? For emotional baggage? In simplistic terms, yes. The Department of Transportation has been running this experiment for 2 years across 15 weigh stations nationwide. We've discovered that vehicles can accumulate psychic mass, particularly vehicles where traumatic events occurred. That mass doesn't affect handling or performance, but it does affect the driver. The heavier the psychic burden, the more the driver experiences depression, anxiety, paranoia. In extreme cases, the accumulated mass can cause psychological breaks. I feel fine, I said, but even as I spoke, I knew it was a lie. For the past 6 months, I'd been experiencing exactly what she described. Worsening depression, anxiety attacks for no reason, a sense of being watched even when alone in my truck. I'd attributed it to stress, to long hours, to the isolation of the job. But maybe... Your truck's psychic mass is in the critical range, the inspector continued. Above 50,000 pounds were required to prohibit the vehicle from continuing. The risk to the driver becomes too severe. We've had 3 cases where drivers continued with critical range psychic mass. All 3 died. One drove off a bridge. One shot himself at a rest stop. One simply stopped eating and drinking until his body failed. The mass consumes them, Mr. Kozlowski. It wants more trauma to feed on, and it uses the driver's emotions to create that trauma. So what do I do? How do I get rid of it? You don't. Psychic mass can't be unloaded like physical cargo. It's bonded to the vehicle at a fundamental level. Your only option is to stop driving this truck, sell it, scrap it, abandon it. But whatever you do, don't continue operating it. I thought about the $87,000 I'd paid for the Peterbilt. Thought about the custom modifications, the maintenance records, the 3 years I'd spent making it mine. Thought about walking away from all of that because some experimental sensor claimed my truck was haunted by emotional weight. What if I don't stop? I asked. What if I just keep driving? The inspector's expression hardened. Then you'll die. Maybe not today, maybe not this month. But the psychic mass will consume you. You'll become part of it. Another layer of trauma bonded to the vehicle. And when the next driver buys your truck after you die, they'll be carrying your burden too. That's how it grows. That's how trucks reach critical mass. They accumulate drivers one after another, each one adding their death to the weight. She opened a file folder and showed me photographs. Trucks, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all impounded at weigh stations across the country. Each photograph had a weight listed, 89,000 pounds of psychic mass, 143,000 pounds, 267,000 pounds. One showed a semi-truck with a weight of over 500,000 pounds, so heavy with trauma that the photograph itself felt oppressive to look at. These vehicles have killed multiple drivers, the inspector said. This one, she pointed to the 500,000-pound truck, has killed 17. We can't destroy them. The psychic mass is too concentrated. Scrapping them just distributes the weight into the scrap metal, contaminating everything it touches, so we impound them. Store them in a facility in Nevada, keep them away from the living. And you're going to impound my truck? Yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Kozlowski, but we can't allow you to continue. You'll be compensated. The DOT has a fund for this purpose. But the truck stays here. I stood up, suddenly angry. You can't do this. You can't steal my property based on some pseudoscience weight measurement. I'm calling my lawyer. You're welcome to try, but you won't leave this facility with that truck. That's not negotiable. I stormed out of the office, back to the parking lot where my Peterbilt sat in Bay 3. The other inspectors watched me but didn't approach. I climbed into my cab, started the engine, and prepared to drive out whether they authorized it or not. But when I grabbed the shifter, I felt it. The weight the inspector had described. Not physical weight. My truck handled fine. The suspension and engine showed no signs of stress. But psychic weight. A pressure in my mind, in my chest, in my very soul. Like carrying someone on my shoulders, someone who was whispering in my ear, telling me how worthless I was, how much better everyone would be if I just stopped existing. Charles Brennan, the previous owner. His death, his loneliness, his final terrified hours sitting in this cab as his heart failed, knowing he would die alone and unnoticed. I felt all of it. It was inside the truck with me, had been inside the truck since I bought it, had been seeping into my mind for 3 years. And it wanted me to join it. Wanted me to die in this truck too, to add my trauma to the accumulated weight, to become part of the mass that would eventually kill the next driver. I turned off the engine, climbed down, walked away from the Peterbilt without looking back. The DOT compensated me as promised. I used the money to buy a different truck, newer, with no death history, and for 6 months, everything was fine. I drove my routes, made my deliveries, felt the depression and anxiety gradually lifting as I got distance from the contaminated Peterbilt. But last week I rolled into the same way station on I-35, same inspector, same experimental sensors, and when my new truck crossed the scale, the display showed 23,000 pounds of psychic mass. The inspector called me into her office again. Mr. Kozlowski, have you experienced any trauma in this new vehicle? Any accidents, injuries, extreme stress? No. Nothing. It's been completely normal. She consulted her computer. According to our records, your new truck was manufactured in 2023. No previous owners, no death history. So where is this psychic mass coming from? And I realized it was coming from me. I'd absorbed so much weight from the contaminated Peterbilt that I was now generating my own psychic mass, contaminating any vehicle I drove. The trauma had bonded to me, not just to the truck, and I was spreading it like a disease. How do I get rid of it? I asked. How do I stop contaminating trucks? The inspector looked at me with something like pity. You can't. Once you've absorbed critical level psychic mass, it's permanent. You'll contaminate every vehicle you drive for the rest of your life. Mr. Kozlowski, I'm going to have to recommend that you stop driving professionally. For your safety and for the safety of future drivers of any vehicle you operate. So that's where I am now. No longer a truck driver. No longer able to operate the vehicle I spent 11 years mastering. Contaminated by trauma I didn't choose. Carrying weight I can't shed. Knowing that if I ever climb into a truck's cab again, I'll be starting the process that will eventually kill someone. The way station that measures souls has marked me permanently. Has declared me too heavy to drive. Has ended my career to prevent me from spreading the contamination further. James Kozlowski, 42 years old, former trucker, current carrier of 23,000 pounds of psychic mass and counting. Because the weight doesn't stop growing, it accumulates, feeds on stress and fear and depression. And every day I carry it, it gets heavier. One day I'll reach critical mass even without driving. The weight will become too much to bear. And I'll do what Charles Brennan did, what the 3 other drivers did. I'll find a quiet place and I'll stop fighting the weight. Because that's what psychic mass does. It crushes you slowly, invisibly, until surrender is the only option left. The scale showed 127,000 pounds. But the real weight, the weight I'll carry forever, is measured in lives destroyed, careers ended, and the slow suffocation of a soul under burdens it was never meant to bear. Turn back. Find another route. Don't haul the cargo that can't be unloaded. Don't drive the trucks that measure souls. Because once you're weighed and found wanting, there's no appeal, no second chance. Just the crushing pressure of psychic mass until you break. Story 4. The delivery that never ends. I've been delivering this load of furniture to a house in suburban Memphis for 6 days now. And every time I think I'm finished unloading the trailer, I return to find it full again. Same couches and dining sets and bedroom furniture arranged on the same pallets in the same configuration, as if I never moved anything. As if the delivery hasn't progressed at all, despite the fact that I can see the furniture inside the house, can walk past the couch I definitely unloaded yesterday sitting in the living room where I placed it, while an identical couch waits in my trailer to be unloaded again. The customer, a woman named Sarah Chen who answers the door every morning with the same confused expression, insisting she's never seen me before, has no memory of yesterday's delivery. Keeps signing for furniture she already has. And I keep unloading inventory that regenerates overnight, trapped in a delivery that has no end state, no completion, no way to move on to my next job. My name is Derek Paulson, and I'd been doing furniture deliveries for 8 years, mostly white glove service, carrying items into homes, assembling them, removing packaging, the full customer experience. The Memphis delivery should have been simple. 42 pieces of furniture from a warehouse in Atlanta to 1847 Maple Grove Avenue, a modest 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood. 1 day's work, 2 at most if assembly was complicated. But it was day 6, and the trailer was still full. I documented everything obsessively, trying to understand what was happening. Taken photos of the empty trailer, or what should have been empty, showing it full. Taken photos of furniture inside the house. The evidence was contradictory and impossible. Both states existed simultaneously. The furniture was delivered and in the house, and also still in the trailer waiting to be delivered. Sarah Chen answered the door when I rang the bell at 8 a.m., same as every previous morning. She was in her 30s, professional attire, ready for work, with a briefcase and car keys in hand. "Can I help you?" she asked, no recognition in her eyes. "Mrs. Chen, this is day 6 of your furniture delivery. We've been through this every morning. You ordered 42 pieces. I've been unloading them, but they keep reappearing in my trailer." "I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't order any furniture." I'd heard this exact conversation 5 times already. I gestured to the living room visible through the open door behind her. Then where did that furniture come from? The leather sectional, the glass coffee table, the entertainment center. I delivered all of those yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. She turned to look at her living room. Her expression cycled through confusion, shock, and fear. "That's not my furniture. That wasn't there when I left for work yesterday. Someone broke into my house and filled it with furniture? No one broke in. I delivered it. You signed for it, look." I showed her my tablet with its digital delivery record. 6 signatures, all dated, all supposedly from Sarah Chen. But each one looked slightly different. The handwriting was similar but not identical. Like 6 different people had tried to forge the same signature. She backed away from me. "I need to call the police. This is insane. Who are you? What are you doing to my house?" "I'm just trying to complete a delivery. I don't understand what's happening either." She slammed the door. I heard locks engaging, heard her voice on the phone inside, frantic and frightened. This was the 3rd time she'd called the police. Each time no one came. I'd waited for hours, expecting cruisers and questions, but Memphis PD never showed. Like the calls weren't going through, like this house existed in a bubble where outside intervention was impossible. I walked back to my trailer and opened the rear doors. Full. completely full. 42 pieces of furniture, perfectly arranged, shrink-wrapped pallets secured with straps, identical to how it had looked when I first arrived 6 days ago. I grabbed a pallet jack and pulled out the leather sectional couch, same couch I'd delivered yesterday. Same weight, same dimensions, same minor scuff on the left armrest. I wheeled it up the driveway toward the house's front door. Sarah Chen's face appeared in the window, watching me, terrified. But she didn't open the door, just watched as I left the couch on her porch and returned to the trailer for the next item. It took 8 hours to unload everything. Coffee table, entertainment center, dining set, bedroom furniture, accessories. All 42 pieces removed from the trailer and placed on Sarah Chen's porch since she wouldn't let me inside. By 5:01 p.m., the trailer was empty. I took photos to document it. Bare walls, empty floor, nothing but some furniture, blankets, and straps. I drove to a truck stop, ate dinner, slept in my cab. When I returned to 1847 Maple Grove Avenue at 8 a.m., day 7, the trailer was full again. Same furniture, same arrangement. The couch with the scuffed armrest, the coffee table with the hairline crack in the glass, the dining set with the slight wobble in the third chair. Not similar furniture. The same furniture, regenerated overnight, returned to the trailer as if I'd never moved it. I checked the porch. Empty. No furniture I'd left there yesterday. Checked through the windows of the house. Different furniture now. Not the items I'd delivered, but older pieces, what might have been Sarah Chen's original furniture before I started this nightmare delivery. She answered the door at my knock. "Can I help you?" she asked, no recognition. "Mrs. Chen, we've been through this 6 times. I'm delivering your furniture." I didn't order any furniture. The exact same conversation, word for word. I was looping, repeating the same day, except it wasn't quite the same. Small details varied. Sarah's clothes were different. The weather had changed from sunny to overcast. Time was advancing for the rest of the world, just not for this delivery. I pulled out my phone and called my dispatcher. "This is Derek. I'm still at the Memphis delivery. There's a situation. The cargo keeps regenerating. I need guidance on how to complete this job." "Derek, you completed that delivery 3 days ago," the dispatcher said. "You're currently scheduled to be in Birmingham with a load of office equipment. Why are you still in Memphis?" "I never finished the Memphis job. The furniture keeps coming back." "According to our system, you delivered all 42 pieces, got the customer's signature, and cleared the location. You're showing in Birmingham right now." "I'm in Memphis. I'm standing in front of 1847 Maple Grove Avenue. I can see the house." "Our GPS shows you in Birmingham." I checked my phone's GPS. It showed me in Birmingham, 240 miles away from where I actually was. My truck's location, according to the GPS, was a parking lot I'd never been to. "The system is wrong," I said. "I'm in Memphis. I'm trapped in a delivery that won't complete." "Derek, are you feeling okay? Do you need medical assistance?" I ended the call. My dispatcher thought I was having a breakdown. My GPS thought I was in Birmingham. Only Sarah Chen in 1847 Maple Grove Avenue acknowledged my actual location, and she thought I was a crazy person breaking into her house. I started unloading the furniture again, because what else could I do? The only way forward was through. If I kept delivering, eventually something would break, some aspect of the loop would fail, and I'd be able to move on. By 5 p.m., the trailer was empty. I took photos, documented everything, drove away. Day 8, trailer full. Same furniture, same conversation with Sarah Chen. Day 9, trailer full. Day 10, trailer full. I stopped taking photos, stopped documenting. Just unloaded mechanically 42 pieces every day, placing them on the porch, watching them disappear overnight and reappear in the trailer by morning. I lost track of days, stopped counting. Just drove to the house, unloaded, drove away, slept, repeated. The routine became automatic, mindless. Sarah Chen stopped frightening me with her lack of recognition. The loop stopped bothering me. It just was. This was my job now, this was my life. Delivering furniture to a house in Memphis forever. Sometimes I'd see other delivery trucks in the neighborhood. They'd park at different houses, unload their cargo, drive away. I envied them. They could complete their deliveries. They could move on. I was stuck. I started seeing myself, not reflections. Other versions of Derek Paulson driving other furniture trucks, pulling up to other houses on Maple Grove Avenue. One was delivering to 1845, one to 1849, one to 1851. All of us trapped in endless deliveries, all of us unloading furniture that regenerates overnight. I tried talking to them. They didn't respond, didn't see me. We were parallel, occupying the same space but unable to interact. How many delivery drivers were trapped on this street? How many had accepted jobs that had no end state, deliveries that would never complete? One day, I don't know which day, I'd stopped counting at 73, I decided to stop. To refuse the delivery, to just drive away and never come back to 1847 Maple Grove Avenue. I made it 15 miles before my truck turned around by itself, without me steering, without me touching the wheel. The truck drove itself back to Memphis, back to Maple Grove Avenue, back to the house. I tried again. Same result. The truck wouldn't let me leave. Or I wouldn't let myself leave. Or the delivery wouldn't let me leave. The distinction had stopped mattering. So I unload. Every day. 42 pieces of furniture that regenerate overnight. Sarah Chen answers the door with no recognition. I place the furniture on her porch. It disappears. I return to find the trailer full. This is my job now. This is my eternity. The delivery that never ends. Sometimes I wonder if I'm dead, if I died somewhere between Atlanta and Memphis, and this is my hell, an endless repetition of the job I chose in life. Sisyphus pushing a boulder uphill, except I'm unloading furniture that comes back. Sometimes I see myself in the windows of the house reflected, and I look older, decades older. Gray hair, lined face, bent posture. How long have I been doing this? How long will I continue? The furniture regenerates. The customer forgets. The delivery continues. Derek Paulson, furniture delivery man, trapped at 1847 Maple Grove Avenue, unloading 42 pieces that can never be delivered. Forever. If you work in delivery, if you get assigned a job to 1847 Maple Grove Avenue in Memphis, refuse it. Tell them the address is cursed. Tell them drivers don't come back from that delivery. Because they don't. They get trapped. Looping, unloading cargo that regenerates, working a job that has no completion. The trailer is full. It's always full. And I have 42 pieces to unload before nightfall. Same 42 pieces I unloaded yesterday. Same 42 I'll unload tomorrow. The delivery never ends. I'll continue with the remaining 3 stories. Story 5. The CB voice that knows your future. The voice on Channel 19 told me I would die in exactly 47 minutes at mile marker 312 when my steering would fail and send my Kenworth through the median into oncoming traffic, killing myself and a family of 4 in a Honda Odyssey. And I had 47 minutes to prevent a future the voice described in such specific detail. The color of the Odyssey, silver. The time, 11:43 p.m. The temperature of my tires, 247 degrees Fahrenheit from prolonged driving. The song playing on the radio, Tom Petty's Free Fallin'. The exact position of the moon in the sky, that I couldn't dismiss it as a prank, couldn't rationalize it as coincidence, could only watch my clock tick down and wonder if fate could be avoided when someone, or something, speaking through my CB radio had already seen it happen. My name is Curtis Hammond, and I'd been hauling refrigerated seafood from Alaska to the lower 48 for 12 years. long routes through Canada and down through Montana, Wyoming, and beyond. I was on I-90 eastbound through Montana at 10:56 p.m. when the voice first spoke, interrupting the normal chatter of bored truckers complaining about road conditions and DOT inspectors. "Curtis Hammond," the voice said, not asking, stating like it was reading my name from a list. "You will die at mile marker 312, 47 minutes from now. Steering linkage failure. You'll cross the median. The Odyssey won't have time to react. 7 deaths total, 4 in the Odyssey, 3 in the cars that pile up behind it. You're the catalyst, the first domino." My hands tightened on the wheel. "Who is this?" "I'm what happens when someone dies in a way that creates a temporal echo. I'm the ghost of Curtis Hammond calling backward through time from the moment of death, trying to warn the living version of myself, trying to prevent the accident that kills us. But I've tried 16 times already, and we always die at mile marker 312. You're loop 17. That's insane. I'm not dead. I'm driving. I'm fine. You're fine now. You won't be in 46 minutes. Check your steering. Feel for any looseness, any play in the wheel. It's subtle now, but it's failing. The linkage is cracked. Has been since that pothole you hit outside Billings. Every mile you drive, the crack widens. At mile marker 312, it'll fail completely." I tested the steering, wiggled the wheel slightly, felt for any unusual response. Everything seemed normal, tight, responsive, no play. But I also remembered the pothole outside Billings, a vicious, jarring impact that had made my coffee jump out of its holder. Had something broken then? Was damage propagating through my steering system invisibly? 45 minutes, the voice said. You're currently at mile marker 287, 35 miles to the failure point. If you pull over now, stop completely, you'll survive. The Odyssey will pass you safely, the family will live, but if you keep driving, trying to make your delivery deadline, you'll die. We'll die. Again. I checked my GPS. Mile marker 287, exactly as the voice said. 10:58 p.m. 45 minutes until the predicted death at 11:43 p.m. The voice was accurate so far. Why have you tried 16 times? I asked. If you know when the accident happens, why can't you prevent it? Because I keep making the same choice. The cargo is time-sensitive. 6,000 pounds of fresh halibut that spoils if delivery is delayed. The contract has penalties for late arrival. I think I can make it to mile marker 312, find a place to pull over there, inspect the steering. But there is no place to pull over at 312, just highway and median and oncoming traffic. By the time I realize there's nowhere safe to stop, the steering fails. And we die. 16 times. So I'll pull over now, problem solved. You won't. I've watched you, watched us make the same choice 16 times. You always think you have enough time. You always prioritize the cargo. You always die at 312. Then I'll change the choice. I'll pull over right now. But I didn't. My foot stayed on the accelerator. My truck maintained 68 miles per hour eastbound. And even as I told myself to slow down, to move to the shoulder, to stop immediately, I felt the compulsion to keep driving. The cargo was time-sensitive. The penalties for late delivery were significant. I could make it to 312. Surely there'd be a place to pull over there, or maybe the steering was fine and this voice was just a prankster. Mile marker 295, 11:08 p.m., 35 minutes to predicted death. You're still driving, the voice said, disappointed but not surprised. Loop 17, same as loops 1 through 16. Curtis, I'm begging you, us. Break the pattern, pull over, let the cargo spoil. 7 lives depend on it. If you're really me from the future, from the moment of death, why can't you tell me something only I would know? Prove you're not just some asshole with my name and my route. The voice sighed. When you were 7 years old, your father took you ice fishing on Lake Superior. You fell through a weak spot in the ice and nearly drowned. Your father pulled you out, but you stopped breathing. He performed CPR for 3 minutes, felt like eternity to him, before you coughed up water and started breathing again. You've never told anyone about that day because you were embarrassed. You made your father promise not to tell your mother. That secret has been yours for 38 years. I felt my stomach drop. That was true. All of it. A memory I'd buried deep, had never shared with anyone except my father, who died 9 years ago, taking the secret to his grave. There was no way anyone could know that story except me. How? I whispered. Because I'm you. 43 minutes from now, when we die in the crash, your last thought will be that ice fishing trip. How close you came to dying then. How you've been living on borrowed time since you were 7. And in that moment of death, something happens. The temporal echo forms. I'm allowed to call backward to warn you to try to save us. But it never works. You never pull over. Mile marker 303, 11:19 p.m. 24 minutes to predicted death. I could see it now, the slight looseness in the steering. Not much, barely noticeable, but present. The wheel had maybe a 1/4 inch of play before the wheels responded. That hadn't been there at the start of the trip. The pothole had damaged something, and the damage was worsening. Pull over, the voice urged. Curtis, please, I've died 16 times. I've felt the steering fail. I've felt the truck cross the median. I've seen the Odyssey's headlights in the instant before impact. I've experienced the crushing metal and the darkness. 16 times. Don't make it 17. Why does it keep looping? I asked. If you die, shouldn't that be the end? Why do you get to call backward and try again? Because the death is wrong. Violates causality somehow. 7 people die who shouldn't die at that moment. The universe tries to correct it by giving me chances to warn myself. But if the warning never works, if we always make the same choice, the loop continues forever. 17 times. 70, 700, until we get it right. Mile marker 308, 11:33 p.m. 10 minutes to predicted death. The steering looseness was more pronounced now, maybe 1/2 inch of play. I could feel the truck's response getting mushy, less precise. The voice was right. The linkage was failing. If I kept driving to 312, it might fail completely, but there was no shoulder here. Just narrow lanes and steep embankments. Stopping would be dangerous. Better to make it to 312, find a proper pull-off. No, the voice screamed. That's what you think every time. There's no pull-off at 312. It's the worst possible place to have steering failure. Median immediately to your left, no shoulder to your right, oncoming traffic with no barrier. If you're going to stop, it has to be now. Mile marker 310. 11:38 p.m. 5 minutes to predicted death. I saw headlights ahead in the distance, eastbound traffic in my direction, but also westbound traffic across the median. Normal highway conditions, nothing unusual. Except somewhere in that westbound traffic was a silver Honda Odyssey carrying a family of 4 who were about to die because of my failing steering. I could prevent it. All I had to do was stop. But the cargo, the 6,000 pounds of fresh halibut, the delivery deadline, the penalties. My entire thought process was trapped in professional responsibilities, in doing my job, in being reliable Curtis Hammond, who always made his deliveries on time. Mile marker 311, 11:41 p.m., 2 minutes. Curtis, I love you, the voice said, and I heard myself crying through the CB speaker. I love us. I'm sorry I couldn't save us. I'm sorry we're going to die again 18 times, maybe 19. Maybe we'll loop forever, always making the same choice, always dying at 312. The steering wheel suddenly had 2 inches of play. The truck was wandering in its lane. I corrected, overcorrected, felt the whole system getting sloppy. The linkage was moments from complete failure. Mile marker 312, 11:43 p.m. The steering failed. The wheel spun freely in my hands, no connection to the wheels. My Kenworth drifted left, crossing the center line, crossing the median. I saw the Odyssey, silver, exactly as predicted, and in the split second before impact, I saw the faces inside. Father driving, mother in passenger seat, 2 children in back, all of them about to die because of me. The impact, and I was driving again. Mile marker 287, 10:56 p.m., 47 minutes until death at mile marker 312. My CB crackled. Curtis Hammond, you will die at mile marker 312, 47 minutes from now. Steering linkage failure. I recognized my own voice. I was the ghost now, calling, backward from death, trying to warn my living self, trapped in loop 18, or maybe 19. I'd lost count. I tried to warn myself differently, tried new approaches, new arguments, new pleas. But the living me made the same choices, kept driving. Prioritized cargo over safety, died at 312, loop 19, loop 20, loop 37. I've been dying at mile marker 312 for what feels like eternity. Have experienced the crash so many times I know every detail, the sound of metal crumpling, the sensation of impact, the moment of darkness. Have tried every possible warning to convince my living self to pull over. Nothing works. Curtis Hammond always dies at 11:43 p.m. at mile marker 312. The Odyssey family always dies with him. The cars behind always pile up. 7 deaths repeated infinitely. I'm calling backward right now. Warning loop 246, begging myself to make a different choice, knowing I won't, knowing we'll die. Again, if you're driving I-90 through Montana, if your CB crackles at 10:56 p.m., if a voice warns you of your death 47 minutes away, listen, pull over, break the loop, because I can't. I'm trapped in the temporal echo, dying forever, unable to save myself no matter how many times I try. Mile marker 312, 47 minutes, the steering will fail. We will die again and again and again. Forever. Story 6. The truck stop that doesn't exist in daylight. The Flying J off exit 37 in rural Wyoming appears only between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. A fully functional truck stop complete with fuel pumps, restaurant, showers, and parking for 60 trucks, all of which vanish at 4:01 a.m., leaving nothing but empty scrubland. And I discovered this because I'd been using the facility for 3 weeks straight on my nightly runs through Wyoming before I finally pulled off at exit 37 during daylight hours and found nothing there. Just a closed exit ramp leading to dirt and sagebrush. No buildings, no pavement, no evidence that the truck stop I'd used last night had ever existed. I called the Flying J corporate office to report the discrepancy and was told there is no Flying J at exit 37. There has never been a Flying J at exit 37, and when I insisted I had receipts for fuel purchases at that location, they found no records of the transactions I definitely remembered making. My name is Beverly Santos, and I'd been running dedicated routes through Wyoming for 6 years. Regular schedules that brought me through the same territory monthly. Exit 37 was new to me, or I thought it was new. The first time I'd stopped there 3 weeks ago, I'd been surprised to find a major truck stop in such an isolated area. But I'd been grateful for the facilities, filled my tanks, grabbed a meal, showered, slept for 4 hours in my Volvo VNL before continuing my route to Denver. The second visit, a week later, I'd recognized the place. Same layout, same staff, same mediocre coffee in the restaurant. I'd started thinking of it as a regular stop. Convenient timing, good facilities, never crowded. Third visit 2 days ago, I'd noticed something odd. Every truck in the parking lot was older. No modern trucks, nothing from the past 5 years. All of them were models from the late 90s and early 2000s, well maintained but clearly dated. And the drivers I saw had a strange uniformity. Mostly male, mostly middle-aged, all wearing clothing styles that felt slightly off, like fashion from 20 years ago. but truck stops attracted all kinds. I didn't think much of it until yesterday when I drove through exit 37 during the day. 11:30 a.m., bright Wyoming sunshine. I took exit 37 expecting to see the Flying J ahead, planning to grab an early lunch. But the exit ramp deteriorated after 100 yards, pavement giving way to gravel, then dirt, then just a closed gate with a road ends sign. Beyond the gate, empty land. No buildings, no indication anything had ever been built here. I pulled over, confused, checked my GPS. It showed exit 37 marked as having facilities, but when I zoomed in, the map showed nothing specific, just a generic services icon with no name, no details. I called Flying J, explained the situation. The customer service representative was patient but firm. There is no Flying J at exit 37 off I-80 in Wyoming. The nearest Flying J is 40 miles east or 60 miles west. Would I like directions to one of those locations? But I've been there, I insisted. 3 times in the past 3 weeks. I have receipts. Can you provide the receipt numbers? I pulled up my expense records. Read off the transaction numbers from 3 fuel purchases I'd made at exit 37. The representative put me on hold, came back 5 minutes later. Ms. Santos, those transaction numbers don't exist in our system. There are no records of any purchases matching those numbers, dates, or amounts. I'm showing you made purchases at our locations on I-80, but at the facilities 40 miles east and 60 miles west of exit 37, not at exit 37 itself. That's impossible. I remember being there. I remember the layout, the staff, the... Ms. Santos, I'm looking at satellite imagery of exit 37 right now. There's nothing there, just empty land. There has never been a Flying J at that location. I ended the call and drove 40 miles west to the Flying J the representative mentioned. When I arrived, it looked familiar, exactly like the exit 37 location. Same layout, same restaurant configuration. And when I went inside, the staff recognized me. Back again? The cashier said. You were here last night, weren't you? I was at exit 37 last night, different location. Exit 37? There's nothing at exit 37. This is the closest truck stop to that exit. You must be thinking of here. No, I specifically remember taking exit 37. I remember the sign. The cashier shrugged. Memory plays tricks sometimes. Long hours, fatigue, easy to mix up locations. But I wasn't mixing up locations. I had distinct memories of the exit 37 truck stop. Could remember specific details, a crack in the men's room mirror shaped like a lightning bolt, a specific booth in the restaurant with a torn vinyl seat, a particular fuel pump that ran slow. That night I drove eastbound, approaching exit 37 at 11:47 p.m. The exit was there, proper pavement, normal signage. And at the end of the exit ramp, the Flying J. Fully operational, lights blazing, trucks in the parking lot. I pulled in and parked, walked around the facility examining everything carefully. The crack in the mirror was there. The torn booth seat was there. The slow fuel pump was pump number 7, exactly where I remembered. I approached a driver who was refueling. Excuse me, how long have you been using this truck stop? He looked at me strangely. This one? Years. Probably since 97, 98. Why? Does it seem normal to you? Everything working properly? Sure. Same as always. You okay? What year is it? Now he looked at me like I was insane. What year? It's 2024. You feeling all right? Need me to call someone? No, I'm fine, sorry. I went inside the restaurant, ordered coffee, observed the other patrons. They all had that same dated quality, clothing, hairstyles, speech patterns that felt like they were from 2 decades ago. And all the trucks in the parking lot were old models, not a single modern truck visible. The waitress who brought my coffee wore a name tag, Shirley. I recognized her from my previous visits. Shirley, can I ask you something? What year is it? She laughed. You're the second person to ask me that tonight. It's 2024, sweetheart. You drivers work too many hours. Who else asked? Driver in that booth over there. Young woman seemed confused about something. I looked where she indicated, saw myself. Another version of Beverly Santos wearing the same clothes, sitting in the same torn booth looking confused and frightened. She saw me at the same moment I saw her. Our eyes met across the restaurant. She stood up quickly, knocking over her coffee, and moved toward me. You're me, she said when she reached my table. I'm you, I confirmed. This place isn't real, is it? We're stuck in some kind of loop, some kind of repeating time pocket. I nodded slowly. The truck stop only exists at night, between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. During the day, it's not here. Never was here. But at night, it appears fully functional, and it's populated by drivers who are also stuck. All of us trapped in a repeating 4-hour period. How do we get out? I don't think we do. Look at the other drivers. They've been here for years, decades maybe. They don't seem to realize they're trapped. They think it's a normal truck stop, think they're making normal stops. But they're not aging, not moving forward through time, just repeating the same 4 hours every night. The other Beverly, was she from a different night, a different timeline? Sat down heavily. So we're ghosts, dead and stuck? Or alive and stuck? I don't think it matters which. We're in the Exit 37 truck stop, and the Exit 37 truck stop exists outside normal time. It's a pocket, a loop, a trap. And we've been caught in it. I checked my watch. 3:47 a.m. 13 minutes until 4 a.m. when the truck stop would vanish. What happens at 4? The other Beverly asked. I don't know. I've never stayed until 4. I've always left before then. Maybe that's how we get out. Maybe we have to stay, experience the transition, see what happens when the truck stop disappears. We waited, ordered more coffee, watched the clock. Other drivers began leaving as 4 a.m. approached, heading to their trucks, pulling out of the parking lot. The staff started closing procedures, turning off lights in unused areas, cleaning tables, performing end-of-shift routines. 3:59 a.m., 1 minute. The restaurant lights flickered. The waitress, Shirley, looked directly at us. You're going to stay, aren't you? She said. You're going to try to see what happens. Don't, please, just leave. Go back to your trucks and drive away. Why? I asked. Because if you stay through the transition, you'll become permanent. Right now, you're visitors, stuck but not anchored. If you stay through 4 a.m., you'll be anchored. You'll become part of the truck stop. You'll be here every night forever like me. Like all of us. 4 a.m. The lights went out, all of them simultaneously. The restaurant plunged into absolute darkness. I heard the other Beverly gasp beside me, heard my own breathing loud in the sudden silence. And then light returned. Not electric light, daylight. We were sitting in a restaurant that had no walls. The building structure was gone. We were at tables and booths in the middle of empty scrubland, Wyoming daylight blazing around us, highway visible in the distance. The waitress stood in the empty land, still holding her coffee pot. The other patrons sat at tables that didn't exist. Drivers stood beside fuel pumps that weren't there, filling tanks on trucks that had vanished. We were the ghost structures, the phantom truck stop, visible only to ourselves, invisible to the physical world. Welcome to permanence, Shirley said. You're anchored now. You'll appear here every night at 11 p.m. You'll work your shift or drive your routes or whatever you think you're doing. And at 4 a.m. you'll become what you are now. Ghosts in daylight, invisible, unnoticed, waiting for night to come again. I tried to stand, to run, to do anything, but I couldn't move from the booth, was frozen in place until 11 p.m. Darkness, electric lights. The truck stop returned. I was sitting in the booth with the torn vinyl seat, fresh coffee in front of me, Shirley refilling cups nearby. The other Beverly was gone, Or maybe she'd never been there. Maybe I'd imagined her, created her from my own fear. I tried to leave, walked to the parking lot looking for my truck, couldn't find it. Couldn't remember where I'd parked. Couldn't remember what I was hauling or where I was going. Just knew I was at the exit 37 Flying J and it was night and I was trapped here until 4 a.m. Every night, forever. Beverly Santos, trucker. Trapped at exit 37, the truck stop that doesn't exist in daylight. If you're driving I-80 through Wyoming, if you see exit 37, if you see a Flying J that shouldn't be there, drive past. Don't stop. Don't become anchored. Because once you stay through 4 a.m., you're permanent. You're part of the loop. You're a ghost in a truck stop that only exists at night, serving other ghosts, fueling phantom trucks, living in a 4-hour window that repeats forever. I'm here now, every night, 11 p.m. to 4 a.m., working tables that vanish in daylight, serving drivers who don't exist. Exit 37, the truck stop between worlds, the place where time loops and drivers get stuck. Don't stop here. Drive past. Stay moving. Because if you stop, you'll stay. Forever. Story 7, the load that whispers your name. The cargo in my trailer has been whispering my name for the past 800 miles, getting progressively louder with each passing hour. Starting as a sound I thought was wind or tire noise, but evolving into a clear, distinct voice. Michael. Michael Reardon. That calls to me through the metal walls separating the cab from the trailer, and when I finally stopped and opened the doors to investigate, I found the cargo exactly as it should be. 39 pallets of industrial machinery sealed in wooden crates. No gaps or spaces where a person could hide. No possible source for a human voice. Yet the whispering continued even with the doors open, even as I stood inside the empty spaces between crates searching for speakers or recording devices, finding nothing but the certainty that something in this load knows my full name and wants me to know it's there. My name is Michael Reardon, or maybe that's what it wants me to believe. Maybe it's been calling my name so many times over the past 800 miles that I've forgotten whether Michael Reardon is who I've always been or who I've become through repetition. I'd picked up the load in Baltimore 4 days ago, machinery components bound for a manufacturing plant in Kansas City. Standard industrial freight I'd hauled hundreds of variations of before. The manifest listed exact specifications. Lathe parts, milling machine components, precision gears, and the crates were properly labeled, properly secured, properly documented. But somewhere around mile marker 347 on I-70 through Ohio, the whispering started. At first it was so faint I dismissed it as imagination. A sound that might have been my name, or might have been road noise, or might have been tinnitus, or might have been nothing at all. But by Pennsylvania, the sound had become undeniable. A voice, male or female, I couldn't tell, androgynous, ageless, speaking my name with peculiar emphasis on both syllables. Michael Reardon. I'd turned off my radio to listen more carefully, turned off my HVAC system, eliminated every possible source of ambient noise. The whispering continued, clear and distinct, emanating from the trailer behind me. I'd pulled over at a rest area in Indiana and inspected the cargo thoroughly. Climbed into the trailer with a flashlight, checking every crate, every gap, every possible hiding place. Found nothing. Just wooden crates containing heavy machinery parts exactly as manifested. No people, no animals. No electronics that could produce sound. But when I returned to the cab and continued driving, the whispering resumed immediately. Michael Reardon. We know you, Michael Reardon. We, now, plural. Multiple voices speaking in unison, still whisper quiet but gaining strength. I'd called the shipper in Baltimore. This is Michael Reardon. I picked up a load 4 days ago, manifest number 47832. I need to verify the cargo contents. Is there anything in these crates besides machinery components? Just what's on the manifest. the warehouse manager said. Lathe parts, milling components, standard stuff. Why? I'm hearing sounds from the trailer like voices. Voices from machinery parts? I know how it sounds, but I'm not imagining this. Something in the load is making noise. Machinery parts don't make noise when they're properly packaged. You sure you're okay? You sound stressed. Maybe you need to take a break, get some sleep. I'm fine. I just need to know if there's anything in this load that could produce sound. There isn't. I supervise the loading myself. It's inert cargo. No electronics, no power sources, nothing that could make noise. I'd ended the call unsatisfied but unable to articulate what I was experiencing in a way that didn't make me sound insane. The whispering evolved as I continued west. By Illinois, it had become conversational, full sentences instead of just my name. Michael Reardon, we've been waiting for you. We've been waiting in these crates for 17 years. We knew you'd come eventually. We knew you'd be the one to carry us. Who are you? I finally asked aloud, feeling ridiculous speaking to cargo but needing answers more than I needed dignity. We're what's left, the voices replied. We're the residue, the echo. We were people once, workers in the Baltimore factory where these machine parts were manufactured. We died in an accident 17 years ago, crushed in the machinery, ground into the components, our blood mixed with the lubricating oil, our bones fragmented and incorporated into the metal. We're literally part of the cargo now. We are the machines. And we've been waiting for someone who could hear us. That's impossible. You're not real. I'm hallucinating from fatigue. Test it. Stop the truck. Open the trailer. We'll prove we're real. I pulled over again. This was Western Illinois, mile marker 89, late afternoon with good visibility. I walked to the trailer, opened the doors, and climbed inside. The crates were vibrating, not violently, just a subtle tremor like something inside was moving. I placed my hand on the nearest crate, felt the vibration intensify under my palm, felt warmth, as if the machinery inside was generating heat despite being inert metal that had been sitting in a trailer for 4 days. You feel us, the voices said, now coming from all around me, from every crate simultaneously. We're here. We're real. We're trapped in these components, our consciousness distributed across 39 pallets of machinery, unable to move on, unable to exist fully. We're dead but aware, gone but present, and we need your help. What kind of help? Don't deliver us to Kansas City. The machinery is going to be installed in a factory there, assembled into working equipment. If that happens, we'll be stuck in operational machines for decades. Grinding, cutting, shaping metal, performing the same industrial processes that killed us, unable to escape, unable to rest. We'll be conscious and suffering for as long as the machines run. So what do you want me to do? Destroy the cargo. Find a way to render the machinery components unusable. Melt them, crush them, break them beyond repair. If the metal is destroyed, we'll be released. Our consciousness can finally dissipate. We can move on. I backed out of the trailer slowly. This was insane. Cargo didn't have consciousness. Dead people didn't get trapped in machinery. I was experiencing a psychological break, a stress-induced hallucination. Something explainable by neuroscience and fatigue. But the whispering continued, the voices pleading with me. 17 people. They gave me their names, their ages, their family details, all begging to be destroyed so they could find peace. I called my dispatcher. I need to refuse this load. Something's wrong with it. Wrong how? I can't explain, just wrong. I need to return it to the shipper. Michael, you're 2 days from delivery. You can't refuse a load because something feels wrong. You'll be in breach of contract. The company will sue. You'll lose your truck. I don't care. I'm not delivering this cargo. What's wrong with it specifically? Is it damaged? Improperly secured? I can't explain. Then you have no legal basis to refuse delivery. Complete the job, Michael. 2 more days. You've been driving for 23 years without incident. Don't ruin your reputation over a feeling. I drove, continued west. The voices in the trailer grew more desperate as we approached Kansas City. Michael, please, we're begging you. Don't condemn us to decades of conscious suffering. Destroy the cargo, crash the truck, set it on fire, anything. I can't destroy cargo worth $200,000. I can't deliberately crash my truck. I'll be arrested, sued, ruined. Your temporary suffering versus our eternal suffering. Which is worse? I had no answer. Mile marker 412. I was 6 hours from Kansas City, 6 hours from delivery, 6 hours from condemning 17 consciousnesses to decades trapped in grinding machinery. If they were real, if any of this was real. I pulled into a rest area, sat in my cab and tried to think rationally. What were the possibilities? 1. I was hallucinating everything due to stress or mental illness. The voices weren't real. 2. The voices were real but lying. They were something malicious trying to manipulate me into destroying valuable cargo. 3. The voices were real and telling the truth. 17 people were trapped in machinery and I had the power to either release them or condemn them. I couldn't know which was true, couldn't verify, couldn't test. So I made a choice. I unhitched my trailer, left it in the rest area parking lot, called my dispatcher and told them I was refusing delivery. They could send someone else to complete it. I was done. They fired me immediately. The company sued me for breach of contract. I lost my truck, my career, my livelihood. But the whispering stopped. And some nights when I'm lying in my cheap apartment wondering if I made the right choice, I hear them again. Faint, distant but unmistakable. Thank you, Michael Reardon. We're free now. Someone else completed the delivery. We're installed in the Kansas City factory. We're grinding, cutting, suffering. But we're grateful you tried, grateful someone heard us. The voices that haunt me now aren't asking for help. They're just there, reminding me that I could have saved them and didn't, that I chose self-preservation over their release. Michael Reardon, former trucker, current haunted man, living with the knowledge that somewhere in Kansas City, 17 consciousnesses are trapped in machinery, experiencing eternal suffering because I wasn't brave enough to destroy a load worth $200,000. If your cargo starts whispering your name, if voices beg you for help, if you're faced with the impossible choice between career and conscience, I can't tell you what to do. I can only tell you what I chose, and that I hear them every night, will hear them for the rest of my life. The load that whispers your name doesn't stop whispering when you walk away. It follows you, forever.